Welcome to Haynes Motor Museum. Today we're looking at one of the most loved of all types of cars, the hot hatch. I'll be telling the story of how the hot hatch became a hero in the road, but now is almost zero. I'll be looking at 6 cars in the collection. Each car is part of the story of the hot hatch. We're going to start with a car which is not a hot hatch. Imagine it's 1969. You've got around £1,100 to spend and you want something sporty that looks good. You could buy a Ford Cortina 1600E, or perhaps a Capri, or a Triumph GT6. Or more likely, you would buy an MGB GT or an MGC GT, like this one. We've got sporty looks and a most delightful hardtop with an opening rear door, a sportsback as it was called, designed by Pininfarina of Italy. Under the bonnet, either a 1.8 or a 2.9 litre, which sounded fabulous. But it's not practical. Although there's a rear seat which folds down, there's very little room for passengers, and it's not really ideal for the school run or the trip to the shops. So what was the next stage? We now move on to the rise of the hatchback. By the early 1970s, things were changing. Consumers wanted small, economical cars that were flexible. A move from a 3-box car, engine, passengers, luggage, to a 2-box car, engine, passengers and flexible luggage space. Technology was changing. Fuel injection was now available for small cars, front-wheel drive was well established and suspension systems improved. Manufacturers responded by developing the hatchback, cars like the Fiat 127 and the Renault 5. Here's the car that defined the template for the hot hatch. Volkswagen had launched the Golf in 1974 to replace the Beetle. At that time, a small group of engineers worked in secret to develop a sporty Golf. It became known as the GTI. Management were reluctant to put it on sale and thought they would only sell about 5,000. They ended up selling over 400,000 Mark I Golf GTIs. This particular example has the torquey 1.8 litre engine, good for 0 to 60 in just over 8 seconds. It's not just the speed of the car that's important, it's the details like the GTI badge and the golf ball on the gear stick inside. This one lacks the tartan upholstery and the red trim round the grille, but it does have the desirable single headlights and the Pirelli wheels. The Golf was a great success and is still in production today. If the Golf GTI was the pioneer, Ford created the XR2, which was the hot hatch for the people. Ford knew exactly what the hot hatch buyer wanted. Rally style fog lights, red trim, pepper pot alloys under widened wheel arches. Inside, rainbow seats and a digital clock. Under the bonnet, a 1.6 litre engine, good for about 90-95 brake horsepower. And when combined with firm suspension and little sound deadening, 40 sounded like 80, but that was the point. Ford sold 150,000 Mark II XR2s, and it became one of the most stolen cars in the UK. Ford developed the hot hatch for the masses. and now what is for many the greatest hot hatch of the period. Peugeot started with this delightful 205 design with its airy body, graceful curves. They then added a 1.6 or a 1.9 litre engine and all the styling features we know. The chunky alloys, the red trim, the red seats inside. But what many people liked most of all was the handling of the car. In fact, one of the engineers said it was the steering that made the car feel alive. This is the hot hatch for the purist. Let's jump forward to the early 2000s, the era of max power, of body kits, neon lights and meetings in supermarket car parks. And at the centre of it all was the Citroën Saxo. Relatively cheap, lively and easy to customise, this was the dream car for many young drivers. This particular car featured in the Max Power Haynes manual guide to car customisation. And if we look inside the car, we can see bucket seats, harnesses, a roll cage and a modified dashboard. On the exterior of the car, we can see dual headlights, modified grille, chunky alloys and lowered suspension, and rather cheekily a VTS badge on what was actually a VTR model. Today, less than 500 VTRs remain, but if you were 17 in the early 2000s, this was the car for you. By the early 2000s, the world was changing and the hot hatch had to evolve. BMW launched the new Mini in 2001. More upmarket, more refined and more comfortable. Let's look at the design of the car. Wheel in each corner, floating roof, wraparound glass. And inside we've got lots of retro touches. The central speedo and the rocker switches. This is a Mini Cooper from 2006. Its 1.6 litre engine produces around 115 brake horsepower. The more powerful Cooper S was seriously fast. The new Mini was the hot hatch reinvented for the 21st century, and 25 years later it's still going strong. We've looked at some of the greatest hot hatches of the 80s. The Golf GTI, the Fiesta XR2, the Peugeot 205 GTI, the Saxo VTR and the Mini Cooper. But times are changing and hot hatches are much less popular than they were. We estimate that the peak in the 80s, hot hatches were selling around 90,000 a year. Now we estimate it's less than 5,000 a year. Why this change? Customer preferences moved towards SUVs. They like the higher driving position, the greater comfort and space. Technology was changing with the move towards electric cars, which made it difficult to produce small performance cars. Safety regulations added weight. Manufacturers have responded by stopping to produce their hot hatches. Hot hatches became popular because they were perfect for their time. They were fast, they were affordable, and they were practical. But times have changed. A Tesla today will easily beat our hot hatches in the dash to 60, but it doesn't sound like an MGB or handle like a 205 GTI. And that is important to people who value the experience of driving. We've looked at the golden era of hot hatches, a time when performance cars were simple, joyful and accessible. The hot hatch may be declining, but they will always be heroes to us at a time when the world is changing.